Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Tony Glasgow. Thank you for joining me today. Today, I'll be talking with Collin Auten. He's a baseball trainer with DBat in Denton. He's been on the show before. He's going to talk about the training techniques that he uses, things that he's done in the past, his past experiences, and all of that. Some of that he's covered before, but he's going to talk with us about it again. So first, I want to talk about my featured business, which is Britz Kickz. He's been on the show before, and I've talked about him before. He's still kicking around doing custom shoes for our team, the Gower Wildcats. 3D printing is one of his things that he does, as well as custom shoes. So check him out. All the information is going to be in the description and on the screen right there, so you can check him out and see what's going on. So let's go ahead and join our conversation that I had with Collin, and I'll see you guys on the other side. So how you doing today, Collin?
Good, man.
All right.
Good.
Yeah, it looks like you're a little
Great
bit
weather
out.
this morning.
Yeah, enjoying that weather outside, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so I just wanted to, this is our second time talking and meeting, so I just wanted to kind of refresh people exactly what you do. So you're an instructor at DBat Denton. How long have you been working with them?
10 years.
Wow. Okay.
Since we opened in 2015.
All right. And Scott
Crazy
Harp.
it's been that long.
Yeah, Scott Harp is the owner and one of your coaches from college, right? Can you kind of run that down a little bit, just kind of briefly, just remind everybody?
Yeah. When I was coming out of high school, didn't know exactly what I wanted to do college-wise. I had some opportunities to go play football.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted to play baseball. And I had a best friend that was committed to North Central, and this was Scott Harp's first year.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up getting on a summer team who my pitching coach ended up taking the assistant job with Scott and took me with him. But I ended up walking on there my first year, and I was the only player on the roster that Scott didn't recruit,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I played for him for 2 years, and we ended up having a pretty good relationship and kept in touch with him through the years when I was coaching college baseball. And I called him a couple times trying to schedule games, and it's never worked out, but we always kept in touch. And I sent him a couple players later on, and then one day he decided to retire and open DBat.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me kind of out of the blue asking if I knew anybody who would want to come work out there. And I said, well, that's interesting that you call right now, because I think I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
And
so you were at a place in your career where you were ready to move on and just start instructing and just sharing your knowledge.
I coached college baseball for about 7 years, and I did high school for 1 year. Didn't enjoy that as much. Obviously, it's a little different, but
Mm-hmm.
And then just the timing was perfect.
Yeah.
I wanted to stay in baseball. That's all I've ever done pretty much my whole life, and this was a good opportunity, and it started off as something I thought would probably be a part-time thing and turned into my full-time job.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So kind of run down exactly what you go over with some of your players that you coach and you train there.
No, it all depends on the age, right? With most of my older guys, it's tough because we don't get a lot of cooperation sometimes from the high school coaches.
Mm-hmm.
As far as getting to work with them pitching wise during the season. So we do a lot of strength and conditioning and shoulder strengthening stuff and just mechanical work instead of getting up there and throwing a lot of bullpens during the season. And
Mm-hmm.
as you know, baseball's a year-round sport now.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's not a lot of off season to sit down and really break things down and work on that kind of stuff. You want to keep guys prepared to play in games, but you also want to teach them and prepare them to be able to grow and move forward the right way. And then the younger I get, the more we throw. Um, but I also do a lot of strength training with the guys.
Okay.
We throw medicine balls. I got all kinds of gadgets in there. I get the core velocity belt. I got a big chain. We do all kinds of stuff like that. And then I do hitting and pitching also.
Okay. With the cooperation that you mentioned, the lack of cooperation, is that just because of trying to keep the pitching numbers down throughout the week, throughout the season, or what is the
Yeah,
issue
yeah.
there?
Well, I would assume that's mostly what it is, because the high school the schedule is you might have a rain out, or maybe the kid's a reliever, and you don't know what day he's going to throw, and then obviously the high school coach, you don't want the kid to have had a lesson the night before where he really taxed his arm,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're going to go on and count on the next day. And so I say lack of cooperation. I understand it, but at the same time, I've always thought, man, if I could just like explain to those guys that if I can do, there's plenty of stuff we can do, and that I do that doesn't wear the guy out. And the problem is, you don't get any one-on-one training from your high school coaches. Not because they don't want to do it or they can't do it, it's because they got however many kids in their program. Sometimes some of those big schools have over 100 kids in their program through the freshman all the way up. And so they just don't have time to work with the kids and develop them pitching wise.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it would be a good compliment if we could work it out to where, hey, this is the schedule. You can do this on this day. And then maybe some of those older guys could get a little bit more work in. But it is what it is, and it's not different for anybody else. So it's not like they're at a disadvantage with other guys getting this work and these guys aren't. Just think you could probably maximize it a little bit better.
Right. Well, it's pretty much the same across all sports because there's limited time on the field and limited time to get, the plan together that's going to go for the next week. So it's pretty much all sports, and it's pretty much going to where you have to have some type of outside training. So it's understandable, it's good for you guys, as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. We, like I said, baseball's a year-round sport, and it started off to where I'd have this month be really busy, and then these months would be slow, and then now it's gotten to the point where, probably also because I offer a lot of things outside of throwing, where it's stayed pretty busy year-round.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you keep up much with the high school playoffs that's going on? Have you been keeping up with it and seeing what's going on?
Yeah, I've got a couple guys this year who are playing on the varsity teams around the area. And I always said probably within a 20-mile radius, 30 miles of our facility, I would say is the best high school baseball in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Man, there's a lot of talent. Marcus Geyer, Flower Mound, South Lake, all those schools right around there. Pretty good baseball, and you always see those teams making deep runs. I think Flower Mound won the state championship last year. Marcus, they're still in it. I don't know how far it is into it now, but and I've got some Marcus kids. I've got some Argyle kids, and Argyle's pretty powerful baseball school. And then I've got a couple Geyer guys as well. So I keep up with it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
As much as I can.
Yeah.
I don't ever get to get out of any of the games because I'm always at the facility.
Yeah. Yeah. You go on pretty late with your sessions. I've seen some starting as late as 9 o'clock. So I know you're up there pretty late.
Yeah. During baseball season, sometimes I'll start lessons at 10 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
With some of those high school kids. And I don't know how that schedule works where maybe they got to get to school a little later.
Yeah.
But sometimes they feel like they need to get in and get some work, and if that's what they need, then I'll be there.
Yeah. Okay. What about the college World Series that's going on right now? Have you been keeping up with that a little bit?
Well, that's probably my growing up. That was my favorite thing to watch
Mm-hmm.
because college baseball was never on until the regionals started. And man, I was glued to my TV when I was a kid because I had aspirations to play college baseball, and
Mm-hmm.
those guys were a little bit more relatable than the professional guys, just because they're first of all they're swinging metal bats, and second of all, you can kind of see yourself maybe being in that situation one day.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I've always loved this time of year for that. But I'm a big TCU fan, and
Of course,
we
yeah.
did not have a great showing in the regional this year,
Oh
unfortunately.
man, how did they end up? I didn't follow that.
They lost their first two games.
Oh no.
They were a borderline host, meaning top 16 team, and they didn't end up getting a host. So they sent them across the country to Corvallis, Oregon, and they got a really young team this year. I think they start 5 freshmen, and then I'd say 60% of the arms that throw for them are freshmen,
Wow.
which is wild,
That is, yeah, it's a huge percentage.
especially in the transfer portal era.
Mm-hmm.
But so they had their ups and downs this year.
Yeah. Are they utilizing the transfer portal as much as other teams are, or are they kind of slacked off on that?
They have, but they just brought in a really big high school class with, I think it was like top 5 in the country, and so I think they kind of committed to the development process style,
Right.
rather than going heavy transfer portal. But they'll always take a couple guys.
Yeah.
You can't not.
Yeah, at this time, yeah, because there's a lot of players, good players are going to be in there.
Yeah, and if you're not utilizing that and everybody else is, that's probably not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
In football, Clemson doesn't use the transfer portal.
Mm.
At least not much, and I think that's kind of hurt them the last couple of years. So I think, in college sports now, if you're not using that thing, then you're going to be at a disadvantage.
Yeah. So let me ask you, since everything has changed since you've been in the coaching game, the collegiate level,
Mm-hmm.
what would your philosophy be now? Would you rely more heavily on recruits or walk-ons or the portal?
Well, I think you have to have a healthy combination of all three of those.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have guys who have loyalty to your program and that are invested in what you're doing, and meaning you got to get those kids from high school and grow them up and develop them. But it's a hit or miss process recruiting,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to miss on some of those guys. You're going to have to fill those holes somewhere. I think unfortunately, it's going to be a little tougher for the walk-ons because they're limiting the roster size.
Mm-hmm.
I think every sport, baseball and football for sure.
Yeah.
But they're also increasing the scholarships. So some of those guys that might have been walking off before in baseball, at least, are going to be on scholarship. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you miss on a guy, you got to go grab somebody from the portal. Sometimes those guys that got 2 years left are a little bit more valuable. Sometimes you got to use those one and done guys, but I think it's hard to build a complete team with just 1 year guys or a complete team full of transfers.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some schools in the past couple of years that have went heavy in the transfer portal, and man, that roster looks good. And then you get to the fall or the spring in baseball or whatever, and who knows how they're going to mesh, and how much invested they are in the program, being that they're only there for 1 year. So that's a slippery slope sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you also, since everything has changed, all things, portal, NIL has changed. Have you seen, I remember back in the day, there was a big deal of a high school player going, skipping college and going straight to the pros, actually the minor leagues, and then up to the pros. Have you seen a decline in that, or is it about the same?
Yeah, I think, well, at the very least, if you're not a first round pick in baseball, with the NIL now, there's at least something to consider.
Yeah.
As far as, okay, monetarily, would this be better for me to sign a professional contract or to, go to college, and depending on what they're being offered at their school, what's the best situation there? And then you got to look at it from a developmental standpoint. Are you ready to start your pro career? And there's maturity factor that goes into that, and there's physical development that goes into that, and just a lot of things. But I definitely would say those high school kids that are getting picked in the later rounds now, I think, are less likely to sign these days. And then on top of that, you see the kids, college kids, that are getting drafted, and if they're not going in the top 3 or 4 rounds, the school offers them equal or more to come back and play another year. I think you're seeing a lot more of that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely kids staying in college longer, and more kids going to college.
Yeah.
And then you got the transfer portal. So it is a wild. It's wild out there.
Yeah, I think it's better for them academically. If more are going to school, that's always a good thing. So I guess that would be better, because a lot of times, I don't know if you knew a lot of guys that did that, go from high school to the pros. If you don't do it immediately, it's harder to go back. When you get to be an adult, you're married with children and more responsibilities, it's harder to get back into school. So if they're going directly, that's definitely a little bit better.
Yeah, it's definitely harder to go back.
Right.
But most teams will offer to pay for your school. Either you take classes in the off season and it gets paid for, or when you're done and it gets paid for. But like you said, life goes on. You start building a family and you got other obligations. It is definitely tougher to do later in life. But it's also hard to turn down that money sometimes.
Yeah.
And just the opportunity to live out a dream for some kids. That only comes up not everybody gets that opportunity.
Yeah, so you got to take it sometimes when it's there. Just go for it.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back a little bit to high school and kind of weave that into what you would have a high school player do as far as training goes, or what kind of a regimen or a program that you would have for them.
Well, I've recently started sending this workout plan that I came up with probably 5 years ago back out to guys, because sometimes I feel like these guys don't necessarily know what it takes or what goes into, get themselves to the next level. And I've got guys that come in for lessons that, they come in for lessons, they go to their practice, they're not doing a lot outside on their own. Yeah. Like you said earlier, everybody's got their personal coaches, whether it's a strength coach, whether it's a coach like what I do. You need to be putting in outside work. So most of the time, in the limited time that I get with these guys, we'll take a look at, we'll throw our bullpen, we'll take a look at any mechanical issues they have, or work through the mental side of whatever they're dealing with at that time. And then at the end, we'll have a conversation about, okay, from this point to this point, next time I see you, these are the things you need to be doing. And I came up with a workout plan a couple years ago that it's built for a starting pitcher, but you can tweak it if you're a hitter or if you're a reliever. There's some flexibility in it, but it's 7 days. And it's not 7 days of throwing, and it's not necessarily 7 days of working out, but I say day one is the day after your start. And then that's usually a heavy lower body workout day, a lot of conditioning, but little to no throwing on that day. And then you ramp it up as the week goes on. And I kind of modeled it after what I went through in college. And I think I told you about last time I did the podcast, Mark Allen, he's like my best friend, who's my mentor. Man, he asked a lot of us when we were at North Central Junior College, way more than either of the Division I schools I played at after that. Not even close.
Yeah.
And so I'm going back and look at that the workout that I created, and I'm like, damn, this is a lot that I'm asking these guys to do. But at the end of the day, if you will do that, it's going to be hard not to make it.
Okay.
I mean, and I email it out to all my guys, my older guys.
So just when you say older guys, what age are you is the cutoff?
Well, usually once they start lifting weights.
Okay.
Because if you're lifting weights, then you can do the workout. If you're not, it would be completely different, right? And probably the guys that ain't lifting yet, their bodies aren't going to be able to handle that type of workload, anyways. But I also talk a lot with my younger guys about things that they need to be doing outside of our lessons and outside of their team practices and stuff also. But with the workout, yeah, I mean, it's a lot. And so a lot of the exercises on there are like, at least the names of the exercises are ones that I made up myself, right? So I'll send this workout to these kids, and I'll say, hey, if you got any questions, email me back, shoot me a text, and I'll walk you through it, or we can talk about it the next time they come in. And then they'll come in and they say, oh, I don't have any questions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way that you could have looked at that and not had any questions, because you have no idea what these exercises are. And that just shows you, like, it takes a special type of person to be able to make it to the next level. Like dedication, work ethic, obviously athletic ability. It ain't for everybody, man. And one of the things I always tell kids is I've never met anybody in my life who did everything they possibly could to get what they want that didn't get what they want. But I could probably count on one hand the amount of people that I know that did everything that they could to get what they want. So it's a simple process. Just work, right?
Yeah.
And you can figure it out and you can make it.
Right.
And I've got one of my best friends, he just retired about a year ago from professional baseball. This kid I played with at North Central with Scott, and now he's doing the same thing I'm doing. And I talk to this dude probably twice a day, every day. His name's Sam Freeman. Went to Hebron High School, went to North Central with me, and he was actually a center fielder, not a pitcher to start off. And then his second year, he's a year younger than me, so his second year at North Central, he started pitching. Then he went to KU. Okay. Shout out. Yeah. Jayhawk.
Right.
He went to KU, and he didn't have a lot of success there, but he had a big arm, and he was left-handed. He's 5'11", 170 pounds, and threw 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
But he had like an 8 ERA at KU. And I think he got drafted in the 30th round, probably got $20,000 and a bus ticket. That's about it. And he was in the big leagues in 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
Less than 3 years, I think. unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we always bounce ideas off of each other, and he always talks about how, in his words, how easy it is to go play at the next level. And I say, yeah, I get where you're coming from. It's not easy. And he's like, well, it is, because if you just work and you do everything you can, and that's a choice, right? Then you're going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy.
Yeah. Right.
And I say that that's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we go back and forth all the time about, like, is work ethic an ability? And I'm not sure I know the right answer to that question, but where I'm at is I think it is an ability or a talent to be able to put that much focus and effort into something.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody's capable of doing that. But if you are, you can make it. Right? And how far, who knows?
Yeah.
But if you want the opportunity to play college baseball or college athletics in general, the opportunities are out there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you put in the work. You know as well as I do that not every kid is willing to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the oldest player that you've worked with to just start out? Say like a 10-year-old that just started out, or a 12-year-old never played baseball before and had success. Is that, I know it's possible, but is it pretty common to you from what you've seen?
No, well, let me think about that for a second. I'm trying to think of all the guys who 10 years I've worked with a lot of kids.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest guy that just started out, I think that's definitely rare, because, and for this reason, I think that in order to be successful, you got to have a passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of the time kids show a passion for it at an early age, if it's going to be there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so as far as like just starting out, I've not had a lot of kids probably past the age of 10, like that just started playing at that age, that had a ton of success.
Mm-hmm.
Because they kind of go into it as, oh, we'll see how this works out. It looks like it's fun.
Yeah.
But then, I'll explain to those guys, hey, you're behind the 8 ball a little bit, but if you want to do this, you can, but you have to do this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times those guys are like, oh, this looked fun, but I wasn't counting on that.
Yeah, too much
But when
work.
you get the kids started at a young age, they learn the work, they love the sport, and it's not so much of a big ask for them to do extra work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've had some high school kids that maybe didn't pitch a lot before they got to high school, and they're freshmen, and they got a good arm. And so this is kind of different than what you're asking, but it's kind of similar. They got a good arm, and they say, well, I want to start pitching. And then I'll tell them the same spiel I just gave right there, where, hey, you're behind the 8 ball, but if you do this, you can be successful. And I've had some of those guys that end up being pretty good pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that has to do with the fact that their arm's a little bit more fresh. And most of the ones that get asked to pitch, maybe they haven't pitched before, is because they're really good athletes with really good arms.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a pretty good starter kit for being able to be a successful pitcher.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I guess probably 10 years old is the youngest I've had a kid that hadn't played before that ended up having some success, at least on his high school team. But I see it a lot more with pitchers who start pitching later.
Yeah. Changing positions or adding a position, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I've got a couple more things. One's kind of a fun question, and one's getting your information. But is there a movie or TV show or a song? I may have asked you this before, but is there a movie, TV show, or a song that you'd be embarrassed for your friends to know about? Something that kind of maybe something for your girls that you kind of jam out with them when they're not there that you really like, but you wouldn't want them to know. So what would it be?
Something that I jam out with my girls?
With the girls, but
that I wouldn't want them to know that I jam out to.
Well, you might like it with, because, the girls like it, but then you find yourself listening to it on your own or watching it on your own or.
Well, man, I spend so much time with my girls. I don't have time to watch anything of my own, but I do watch a lot of Disney and cartoons and stuff with them. Yeah. But I guess I'll say this. This kind of answers the question, but Moana.
Okay.
The Maui character in Moana.
Yeah.
He's got that song, "You're Welcome."
Yeah.
And it's now like a built-in habit where every time somebody says thank you, I just sing "You're Welcome."
That's pretty good.
Because I've heard it so many single times.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that Disney is a mandatory if you have kids, because all the Disney movies are good to me. I like most of them. So, and Moana's one of my favorite too. So I can get that. I can relate to that. It's good though. It's funny that you.
Says thank you. I say "You're welcome."
Oh man, so I'm gonna have to do something now to get you to say it. Oh man! All right. Why don't you give everybody the contact information to get a hold of you at DBat and get something scheduled and get in there and get some training?
Well, I don't do any. We kind of got a new system up there, so I don't do any of the scheduling on my own. But we're at DBat Denton, Collin Auten. If you call up to the front desk or you go in there, then they got my schedule pulled up, and they can give you availabilities, and people book out sometimes 6 months in advance.
Right.
And they're pretty helpful with that stuff. And Scott usually sends out an email every week for clients that I've had for a while, given my schedule for the upcoming week. I stay pretty full, but because I stay pretty full, there's always cancellations and openings throughout the week. I work Monday through Saturday. Monday through Friday, I'm there from 3 to at least 10. And then on Saturdays, I usually start at 10 and go depending on how many guys I have. Yeah. And I recently, this last year, been nominated for it several times, but this last year I won the award for Instructor of the Year for DBat Southwest region, which is the biggest region for DBat in the country. I think there's 80 DBats in that region. So that was a pretty big honor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that helps or hurts my my schedule. It's been pretty full the whole time, but
yeah,
it's nice to be recognized for that.
Yeah, for sure. If you go to dbat.com and you schedule an appointment, then you can select Collin and see his availability then. So it's the same as going in, but
Correct.
a little bit easier.
Yeah, I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't ever mess with that stuff.
Yeah, that is fairly
I used to be
new.
able to do it all on my own. But.
Yeah. So it is, like you said, it is a fairly new system, so you may not have gotten in there, but that's, how I do it, how I schedule everything, and I need to go in there and schedule some more, matter of fact. So you'll be hearing from me on that. I'll have all your contact information and DBat's contact information in the description so everyone can get a hold of you. So I appreciate you coming on, and thank you for taking your time. And we had some technical difficulties, but we fought through it and got everything going. So I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you later, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony.
All right. Yes, sir. You have a good day.
See ya.
All right. All right, that was a great interview with Collin. I appreciate him coming on. Thank you very much. And I thank you for listening. If you want to get in touch with Collin at DBat, the information is going to be in the description below. And also information for Britz Kickz to get a hold of Steven and get your shoes, everything that you need 3D printed. He can do it for you. Till next time, we'll see y'all. Take it easy. Have a good night.